Lieutenant Commander John Miller stared at the strange readings on his monitor. Something large was moving toward Earth's solar system. He had been working at the International Space Defense Force monitoring station for 8 years, but he had never seen anything like this. "Control, this is Outpost 7, John said into his headset. "I'm tracking multiple objects approaching from the Cygnus direction. They're moving faster than anything in our database." John's heart beat faster as he confirmed the readings. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a drill. Something was coming. 3 days later, the world knew. The objects were spaceships, big ones. The news channels called it humanity's first contact with alien life. People reacted with a mix of fear, excitement, and wonder. The aliens called themselves the Xantari Federation. They were a group of 3 different alien species who had joined together centuries ago. Their ships were massive, each one bigger than the largest aircraft carrier on Earth. Lisa Brown had spent her whole life studying languages. Now, as Earth's top xenolinguist, she faced her biggest challenge: understanding the Xantari language. She worked day and night with her team, analyzing the strange sounds and patterns in the messages the aliens sent. "I think I've got it," Lisa said, brushing her hair away from her tired eyes. "Their language isn't that different from some Earth languages in structure. They use tones like Chinese and vowel harmony like Finnish." Within a week, Lisa had created a basic translation program. Now Earth could talk to the aliens. The United World Council, Earth's governing body for space matters, prepared a message of peace and friendship. President Susan Carter stood tall as cameras recorded her historic message to the Xantari. "We welcome you to our solar system and hope to establish peaceful relations between our worlds. We invite you to meet with our representatives to discuss diplomatic ties and mutual cooperation." The Xantari response came 12 hours later. Lisa frowned as she translated it. "What do they say?" asked Captain Eric Russell, the military liaison to the xenolinguistics team. Lisa looked up from her computer. "It's not good. They're dismissing us. They call us primitive mammals barely out of our trees. They don't see us as equals." Eric's face hardened. "What else?" "They plan to set up mining operations on Mars and our moon. They don't even ask permission. They just tell us they're doing it." Eric immediately reported to his superiors. The United World Council met in an emergency session. They decided to send a clear message to the Xantari. Earth claimed Mars and the moon as part of its territory, and any unauthorized mining would be considered an act of aggression. Lisa worked with Eric to craft the warning in the Xantari language. They made it formal and clear, explaining Earth's territorial claims and stating that humans had defensive capabilities that could protect their solar system. The Xantari response was quick and shocked everyone who read it. They laughed at Earth's warning. Their message included images of human technology compared to their own advanced ships and weapons. They mocked humanity's primitive rockets and simplistic weapons. One part of their message translated to, "What will you throw at us, pointy sticks?" Despite Earth's protests, the Xantari landed on Mars a week later. They set up large mining operations digging deep into the red planet's surface. They ignored all further communications from Earth. Few people knew what happened next. In a secure, underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Carter met with the military leaders of Earth's 20 most powerful nations. "The time has come," she said, looking at each person around the large table. "We must reveal Project Chimera." "General." Frank Morgan stepped forward and pressed a button. A holographic display appeared above the table, showing spacecraft unlike anything the public had ever seen. "For 50 years we've been preparing," Frank explained. "After the near-miss asteroid in 2037, the world's governments secretly agreed to combine resources. What we found in the asteroid wasn't just rock, there was technology, alien technology. Many at the table already knew this secret history. Some were hearing it for the first time. We reverse-engineered what we found," Frank continued. "Created ships and weapons far beyond what the public knows exists. We kept it secret, worried about panic or that the technology might be misused." Karen Phillips, a civilian engineer, stood next to Frank. She had worked on Project Chimera for 15 years. The Xantari scanning technology operates on limited frequencies, Karen explained. Our ships use materials that are invisible to their scanners. They can't see what we really have. William Harding, Earth's top military strategist, laid out his plan. We won't attack with full force immediately. First, we demonstrate our power in a limited way. Hit one mining operation on Mars, show them we're serious, give them a chance to back down and negotiate properly. President Carter looked around the room. We gave them warnings. They chose to ignore us. They think we're helpless and primitive. They need to learn that humanity is not to be underestimated. She took a deep breath. Authorize operation first. Strike. 2 days later, the Xantari miners on Mars suddenly detected an unidentified craft approaching. Before they could react, targeted energy weapons disabled their main power systems. No Xantari died, but their equipment was reduced to melted metal. The Xantari commander on Mars sent an angry message to Earth. This primitive attack will be punished. You do not understand the power you are facing. Lisa translated Earth's response. You did not understand our warnings. This was only a small demonstration. Leave our solar system or face the full might of Earth. The Xantari leaders met on their main ship. They couldn't believe a primitive species had technology that could harm their operations. They decided humans needed to be taught a lesson. They prepared their warships, convinced that one show of force would make these upstart humans surrender. What the Xantari didn't know was that Earth was ready. The hidden fleet of Project Chimera moved into position. The Xantari had overlooked humanity's warnings. They had mistaken patience for weakness. They had judged humans by their public technology, not realizing what was hidden. Now they would learn their mistake, and it would cost them dearly. The room fell silent as Colonel Frank Morgan pulled back the massive hangar doors. Inside sat 12 sleek spacecraft, unlike anything the public had ever seen. Their dark hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Welcome to the Chimera program, Frank said to the small group of newly briefed officials. For 50 years we've been building these in secret. Karen Phillips walked alongside Frank. Until yesterday, she had been a civilian engineer working for a company that officially made satellite components. Now she stood in the most classified military facility on Earth. The metal alloy in the hull came from the crashed alien vessel we recovered in 2037, Karen explained. It absorbs scanner waves instead of bouncing them back. To the Xantari, these ships are practically invisible. President Susan Carter touched the smooth surface of the nearest ship. And the weapon systems? Frank nodded to Karen, who pulled up a holographic display from her tablet. We have energy weapons based on the same technology. They can disable Xantari systems without destroying their ships or killing their crews. We also have more powerful weapons if needed. William Harding, the military strategist, stepped forward. Our plan is precise and measured. We don't want to start a full war if we can avoid it. The Mars operation was step 1, showing them we can reach them. Now we need to show them what we're truly capable of. Susan looked around the room. The public needs to know some of this, not everything, but they need to understand what we're facing and that we can defend ourselves. Later that day, President Carter addressed the world. Billions watched as she revealed the existence of Earth's secret space fleet and explained the situation with the Xantari. For decades, we have hidden our true capabilities, preparing for a moment we hoped would never come, she said. The Xantari Federation has ignored our warnings and violated our territory. We have demonstrated a small fraction of our defensive capabilities on Mars. We now call on them once more to withdraw and engage in proper diplomatic relations. The speech changed everything. Around the world, people reacted with shock, fear, and then pride. Humans weren't as helpless as the aliens thought. The Xantari response came 6 hours later. Lisa Brown frowned as she translated it. They still don't believe us, she told Captain Eric Russell. They think the Mars attack was our best effort. They're calling it a lucky strike and demanding we surrender or face real power. Eric shook his head. They're still underestimating us. They've also started setting up mining equipment on the moon now, Lisa added. They're expanding operations despite our warning. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, the Earth Defense Council gathered. Representatives from 20 nations sat around a large table, watching as William Harding outlined the next phase of his strategy. The Xantari have 3 homeworlds, William explained, pointing to a holographic map. They believe we don't know their locations and that we can't reach them even if we did. They're wrong on both counts. Karen Phillips had been working non-stop with her engineering team. She looked tired, but excited. We've analyzed the data from the Mars operation. Their shield technology has a weakness we can exploit. They use a triple frequency pattern that leaves a gap every 3.7 seconds. Frank nodded. Enough time for our weapons to get through. What about their weapons? Susan asked. Their energy weapons are powerful but slow to recharge, Karen replied. If we move fast enough, we can hit them between firing cycles. William pointed to the moon on the display. They've set up a larger mining base here, near the Sea of Tranquility. Our lunar colonies are at risk. I propose a larger demonstration of our capabilities. We take out their entire lunar operation. The council debated for an hour. Some wanted immediate full-scale war. Others urged more diplomacy. Finally, they reached a decision. We will destroy their lunar base, President Carter announced, but we will give them one more chance to withdraw first. Lisa crafted a final warning message in the Xantari language. It was direct and specific, explaining exactly what would happen if they didn't leave the moon within 24 hours. The Xantari sent back a one-line response. Your primitive species amuses us. 24 hours later, the USS Defiant emerged from behind Earth. The ship was commanded by Captain Samantha Graves, a veteran pilot who had secretly trained for 15 years for this mission. All systems ready, reported her second-in-command, Lieutenant John Miller, the same officer who had first detected the Xantari approach. Weapons primed, added Weapons Officer George Harris. Samantha took a deep breath. Begin Operation Lunar Defense. The Defiant moved with incredible speed, reaching the moon in minutes. The Xantari mining base was massive, with over 30 alien ships and hundreds of personnel. They detected the approaching Earth vessel too late. Engineer Paul Jackson monitored the Xantari communications from the Defiant. They're scrambling to raise shields. They still think we have limited capabilities. Communications Officer Olivia Martinez added, they're sending messages to their fleet. They're laughing at us, saying one Earth ship is no threat. Samantha's face hardened. Let's change their minds. Target their power generators and command center. Non-lethal strikes only. The Defiant fired. Precise energy beams hit the Xantari base. Their shields flickered and failed exactly as Karen had predicted. Within minutes, the entire mining operation went dark. On the main Xantari vessel orbiting Earth, Commander Zexcal watched in disbelief as their lunar base went offline. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Perhaps these humans weren't as primitive as they had thought. He sent an urgent message to the Xantari homeworlds. Humans have unknown technology. Request reinforcements immediately. Back on Earth, President Carter received the report of the successful operation. Any casualties, she asked. None, William replied. As planned, we disabled their equipment and systems but caused no deaths. Good, Susan said. Now we wait to see if they finally take us seriously. The answer came 12 hours later. The Xantari fleet began to pull away from Earth and Mars. They were retreating to their homeworlds. Lisa translated their final message. This minor setback changes nothing. We will return with our full military might. Your species will regret challenging the Xantari Federation. Frank and William exchanged glances. They still don't understand what they're facing, Frank said. No, William agreed. But they will soon. The USS Defiant hung silently in space near Mars. Captain Samantha Graves stood on the bridge, watching the red planet rotate slowly below. The remains of the Xantari mining operation lay scattered across the Martian surface. Status report, Samantha said. Lieutenant John Miller looked up from his screen. The Xantari fleet has fully withdrawn from our solar system. They're heading back to their homeworlds. They'll be back, Samantha said quietly. And in greater numbers. Earth had won the first rounds, but everyone knew this wasn't over. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, The Earth Defense Council gathered again to plan their next move. The Zantari still don't understand what they're facing, William Harding explained. They believe our attacks were lucky or that we used our most powerful weapons. They don't realize we've been holding back. President Susan Carter nodded. What do our intelligence reports say about their next move? Communications Officer Olivia Martinez, who had been monitoring Zantari communications, stepped forward. They're mobilizing their full military fleet. Based on their messages, they plan to return in force and crush the human resistance once and for all. How much time do we have? Susan asked. 3 weeks at most, Olivia replied. Colonel Frank Morgan displayed a holographic map of the Zantari home systems. We have 2 options. We can wait for them to return and defend our solar system, or we can take the fight to them. The room fell silent. Taking the fight to the Zantari homeworlds would be a massive escalation. If we wait for them to attack, we risk our civilians, William said. The moon colonies, the Mars settlements, they would all be in danger. Engineer Paul Jackson had been working with Karen Phillips on analyzing Zantari technology. He stood up. We've made a breakthrough. The Zantari ships use a very specific type of shield harmonic, and we found a way to disrupt it completely. Paul displayed complex diagrams on the main screen. Their shields create a bubble of energy around their ships, but there's a pattern to the energy flow. If we hit it with precisely timed pulses at exactly the right frequency, we can create a cascade failure. Karen nodded. It's like finding the exact musical note that can shatter a glass. We can bring down their shields without using brute force. Dr. Richard Green, the lead scientist for weapons development, added, We've also adapted our weapons to target their engines specifically. We can disable their ships without destroying them. President Carter considered all the information. I want a plan that minimizes casualties. If we go to their homeworlds, it must be for one purpose only, to show them we can, and to force them to negotiate peacefully. William Harding nodded. I've already begun developing Operation Checkmate, a surgical strike at their 3 capital worlds simultaneously. Meanwhile, in the Zantari home system, Commander Zex Cal addressed the Triad Council, the 3 leaders representing each species of the Federation. These humans are more advanced than we thought, Zex Cal admitted, but their victories have been minor. They damaged some mining equipment, that is all. High Counselor Varric, the eldest of the Triad, tapped his long fingers against the table. You assured us they were primitive, that they posed no threat. A miscalculation, Zex Cal said, but one easily corrected. We will return with our war fleet. 500 ships instead of 20. They cannot stand against such force. And if they have more surprises? Asked Counselor Mella. Impossible, Zex Cal replied confidently. We've analyzed their technology. They have a few advanced ships, yes, but nothing that can match our full military might. And they certainly cannot reach our homeworlds. Their propulsion technology is centuries behind ours. The Triad Council authorized the full war fleet. Across the 3 Zantari homeworlds, massive warships prepared for battle. They would teach these upstart humans a lesson they would never forget. What the Zantari didn't know was that 5 Earthships were already on their way. The USS Defiant led the small fleet, using technology that the Zantari couldn't detect or understand. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Samantha Graves watched her crew prepare for their most daring mission yet. Faster than light jump in 3 minutes, announced Navigator Helen Ward. All systems ready, reported Engineer Paul Jackson. The shield disruptors are calibrated exactly to the frequencies we detected. Communications Officer Olivia Martinez monitored the Zantari communications. They have no idea we're coming. They're still planning their attack on Earth. Samantha addressed her crew. What we do today will change everything. Remember your training. Remember our mission. We are not here to start a war. We are here to end one before it truly begins. The 5 Earthships activated their advanced propulsion systems. In a flash of light, they disappeared from our solar system. In the capital city of Xantar Prime, the main homeworld of the Federation, High Counselor Varric was addressing a crowd of citizens. He spoke of the glory of the Federation and how they would soon add Earth to their list of conquered worlds. Without warning, alarms began to sound throughout the city. The sky lit up as 5 unknown ships appeared in orbit. "Impossible," whispered Varric as he looked up. On the second homeworld, Mela's Rest, Counselor Mela was awakened from sleep by her guards. "Unknown ships have appeared in orbit. They match no known design." On the third homeworld, Corvus, Counselor Traz watched in shock as Earthships disabled the orbital defense platforms with surgical precision. Commander Zexacal rushed to the Defense Command Center on Xantar Prime. "How did they get here? Our sensors detected nothing." Before the Xantari could launch their defense, the Earthships broadcast a message in perfect Xantari language. "People of the Xantari Federation," said the voice of Captain Samantha Graves, translated flawlessly by Lisa Brown's programs. "We gave you warnings. We asked for peace. You chose to ignore us. Now we demonstrate what we are truly capable of." The Earthships fired their weapons, not at the cities below, but at specific military targets. Shield generators fell. Communication arrays went dark. Defense platforms drifted powerless in orbit. In just 30 minutes, the Xantari Federation's 3 capital worlds were defenseless. The 3 Xantari homeworlds were in chaos. Their orbital defenses hung powerless in space. Their communication networks were down. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Xantari Federation felt fear. On Xantar Prime, High Counselor Varric stared at the emergency screens. "How is this possible? How did they reach us so quickly?" Commander Zexcal had no answer. The humans had technology that the Xantari had never seen before. Technology that should be impossible for such a young species. In Earth orbit, President Susan Carter received the news of the successful first strike. "All targets disabled with minimal casualties," reported Colonel Frank Morgan. "The Xantari capitals are defenseless." "Begin Phase 2, Susan ordered. On the USS Defiant, Captain Samantha Graves gave the command. "Deploy the ground teams." Small, sleek ships launched from the 5 Earth vessels. Each carried 20 soldiers in advanced combat suits. Major Allen Peterson led the first team heading to Xantar Prime. "Remember your training," Allen told his soldiers as their ship entered the atmosphere. "Non-lethal force when possible. We're here to capture their leadership, not start a slaughter." The Earth soldiers wore mechanized combat suits that enhanced their strength, speed, and protection. The suits were painted dark blue with the Earth flag on the shoulders. They carried weapons that could stun or disable rather than kill. The first team landed in the central plaza of Xantar Prime's capital city. Xantari civilians scattered in panic. Xantari security forces rushed to respond but found their energy weapons had little effect on the Earth combat suits. Allen raised his hand. "We come for your leaders, not your people," he announced, his words translated perfectly by the speakers in his helmet. "Stand down and no one will be harmed." Some Xantari security forces ignored the warning. They fired their weapons. The energy blasts bounced off the Earth combat suits. The soldiers responded with precise stun blasts that left the Xantari unconscious but alive. Similar scenes played out on all 3 homeworlds. Earth forces moved with surgical precision toward government buildings and military installations. They disabled resistance without causing unnecessary harm. Security Chief Laura Watson led the team targeting the Xantari Central Communications Hub on Mela's Rest. Her mission was critical. Broadcast Earth's message to all Xantari simultaneously. "Hub secured," Laura reported after her team took control of the massive building. "Beginning transmission." Across all 3 Xantari worlds, screens lit up with the face of President Susan Carter. "People of the Xantari Federation," she said. Her words translated perfectly into the Xantari language. "We did not want this conflict. We asked for peace. We sent warnings. Your leaders chose to ignore us. They called us primitive. They underestimated humanity." Susan paused, letting her words sink in. "We do not wish to occupy your worlds or harm your people. We want only recognition of our sovereignty and a guarantee that the Xantari Federation will respect Earth's territory." On Xantar Prime, Major Allen Peterson's team reached the government complex. They encountered heavy resistance from elite Xantari guards. The battle was fierce but short. The Earth combat suits gave the soldiers advantages the Xantari couldn't. Alan found High Counselor Varric hiding in a secure room beneath the complex. The elderly Xantari leader looked up in fear as Alan entered. "High Counselor Varric," Alan said, his helmet translating his words. "By the authority of Earth's United World Council, you are relieved of command." On Corvus, the third Xantari homeworld, Counselor Traz tried to escape in a small ship. Lieutenant Daniel White intercepted him before he could leave the atmosphere. "Your ship is disabled," Daniel told the Xantari leader. "Return to the surface immediately." Within 6 hours, all 3 Xantari capital cities were under Earth control. The Triad Council members were in custody. The Federation military was in disarray. Back on Earth, the Defense Council watched the events unfold on large screens. "I still can't believe it worked," said William Harding, the architect of the operation. "The Xantari made one critical mistake," Karen Phillips explained. "They judged us by what they could see, not by what was possible. They never imagined we could have technology more advanced than what we showed the world." The Xantari war fleet, which had been preparing to attack Earth, received news of the capital's fall. Without orders from the Triad Council, the fleet commanders were confused and divided. Some wanted to attack Earth immediately. Others urged caution. Fleet Admiral Jorex, the highest-ranking officer still free, made the decision. "Stand down all ships," he ordered. "We cannot risk our homeworlds. Open communication channels with the humans." In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Communications Officer Olivia Martinez reported, "The Xantari fleet is standing down. They're requesting to open peace talks." President Susan Carter nodded. "Tell them we accept." The next day, Fleet Admiral Jorex arrived on Xantar Prime under a flag of truce. He was escorted to the government complex where the Triad Council members were being held. Major Alan Peterson and Security Chief Laura Watson represented Earth at the meeting. "You have defeated us," Jorex admitted. "Something no species has done in 500 years. The Xantari Federation surrenders to Earth." Laura shook her head. "We don't want your surrender. We want a fair peace treaty, one that recognizes Earth's sovereignty and establishes proper diplomatic relations between our peoples." Jorex looked surprised. "You won't occupy our worlds? Take our resources?" "That was never our goal," Alan explained. "We only wanted to be treated with respect, not dismissed as primitives." The Xantari leaders began to understand that humans were different from any species they had encountered before, powerful enough to defeat them, yet choosing restraint over conquest. High Counselor Varric, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. "We gravely misjudged your species. We saw your public technology and thought we knew your capabilities. We ignored your warnings because we believed you were bluffing." "A costly mistake," Laura said. "One we hope will not be repeated." News of the peace talks spread throughout the 3 Xantari homeworlds. The people were shocked that the humans had won so decisively, yet were offering fair terms rather than harsh punishment. On Earth, people celebrated the victory, not just a military triumph, but a moral one. Humanity had proven itself to be both strong and merciful. President Susan Carter addressed the world again. "Today marks a new chapter in human history. We have shown the galaxy that Earth is not to be underestimated, but also that we seek peace rather than domination. The stars are no longer beyond our reach." 1 week after the Earth forces took control of the Xantari capitals, the peace talks began in earnest. The Grand Meeting Hall on Xantar Prime, once used for Federation ceremonies, now hosted representatives from both worlds. Commander Beth Harrison led the Earth diplomatic team. She had spent years studying alien cultures and knew the importance of this moment. "This treaty will shape relations between our worlds for generations," she told her team before entering the hall. The Xantari were represented by the Triad Council, now released from custody as a show of good faith. High Counselor Varric seemed smaller somehow, his confidence shaken by recent events. "We are prepared to discuss terms," Varric said as the meeting began. "The Xantari Federation acknowledges Earth's superior position. The words clearly pained him. Beth nodded. We don't seek domination, counselor. We want mutual respect and clear boundaries. That's all we ever wanted. President Susan Carter joined the talks via secure communication link. Her image appeared on a large screen in the hall. The terms are simple, she explained. The Xantari Federation will withdraw completely from Earth's solar system. You will acknowledge our sovereignty over all planets and bodies within that system. Counselor Mella leaned forward. And in return? In return, we offer fair trade agreements. We will share some of our technology. Not weapons, but medical and environmental advancements that could benefit both our peoples. And we will establish proper diplomatic relations. The Xantari leaders were surprised. They had expected harsh demands, heavy reparations, even permanent occupation of their worlds. The human approach was unlike anything in their experience. Over. The next 3 days, the details were worked out. The Xantari would pay reasonable compensation for damage to the lunar colonies. They would recognize Earth's borders. And most importantly, they would treat humans as equals in all future interactions. The third day, Commander Beth Harrison added one more condition. We want embassies on each of your homeworlds, and we invite you to establish an embassy on Earth. True diplomatic relations require ongoing communication. Fleet Admiral Jorex, who had joined the negotiations, nodded with new respect. Your species continues to surprise us. Most victors would demand tribute or territory. You ask for embassies. Beth smiled. We're explorers at heart, Admiral. We want to learn about your worlds, your cultures, your histories. War was never our first choice. As the peace treaty took shape, Engineer Paul Jackson worked with Xantari technicians to restore their damaged systems. He found himself fascinated by their technology, which followed different principles than Earth's. Your power distribution is remarkably efficient, Paul told a Xantari engineer named Kelv. We could learn from this. Kelv seemed surprised. You want to learn from us, even after defeating us? Paul nodded. That's what makes humans different, I think. We're always curious, always learning. Your people made a mistake in judging us by appearances. We try not to make the same mistake. On Mella's rest, Security Chief Laura Watson oversaw the gradual withdrawal of Earth forces. She made sure her soldiers treated the Xantari civilians with respect. No swagger, no arrogance, she instructed her teams. We're here to establish peace, not rub their faces in defeat. A young Xantari approached Laura one day. Are all humans like you? The child asked. Strong, but not cruel? Laura knelt down to be at eye level with the child. We try to be. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. But we always try. On Corvus, Lieutenant Daniel White helped restore the planet's defense systems, now that the peace treaty was nearly complete. He worked alongside Xantari defense officers, who had been his enemies just days before. You could have destroyed these completely, said a Xantari officer named Tren. Why help us rebuild them? Because we want you safe and secure, Daniel explained. Just not a threat to Earth. There's a difference. On the final day of negotiations, representatives from all 3 Xantari species and the human delegation gathered for the treaty signing. The ceremony was broadcast across all Xantari worlds and back to Earth. High Counselor Varric spoke first. Today marks a new chapter for the Xantari Federation. We have learned a costly but valuable lesson. Appearance does not equal capability. Patience does not equal weakness. The humans taught us this through both their strength and their mercy. President Susan Carter spoke next from Earth. We came to your worlds not to conquer, but to be recognized, not to destroy, but to build understanding. This treaty is not the end of a conflict, but the beginning of a relationship. When the treaty was signed, applause filled the hall. For the first time in their long history, the Xantari Federation had met a species that had defeated them militarily, yet treated them with dignity afterward. As the Earth forces prepared to return home, leaving only embassy staff behind, word of what had happened spread throughout the galaxy. Other alien civilizations that had dismissed humans based on their public technology began to reconsider. Intelligence reports about Earth were updated. Diplomatic overtures were prepared. Major Alan Peterson stood on the bridge of the transport, ship taking him and his team back to Earth. He looked at the view screen showing Xantar Prime growing smaller as they departed. "Do you think they've really learned their lesson?" asked one of his soldiers. Alan nodded. "I think so, and not just the Xantari. News travels fast between star systems. Other aliens will hear about what happened here. They'll think twice before underestimating humanity." Commander Beth Harrison remained behind as Earth's first ambassador to Xantar Prime. She watched from the New Earth Embassy as the ships departed. A Xantari aide approached her. "Ambassador Harrison," the aide said, "High Counselor Varric requests your presence at tonight's Federation address. He wants you beside him as he explains the new era to our people." Beth smiled. "I would be honored." That evening, as Varric addressed the Xantari people with Beth at his side, he said words that would be remembered in history books on both worlds. "We overlooked their warnings. We dismissed their capabilities. We judged them by appearances alone. And in doing so, we allowed their ships to reach our capitals. But in their victory, the humans showed us who they truly are. Not conquerors, but explorers. Not oppressors, but partners. Let us never again make the mistake of underestimating humanity." Back on Earth, as the returning ships were welcomed with parades and celebrations, President Susan Carter gave a final address about the conflict. "Today we have shown the galaxy that Earth is neither helpless nor heartless. We defended our sovereignty with strength, and we secured peace with wisdom. The stars have always called to humanity. Now the path forward is clear, and it is ours to walk with confidence."